The first night on TD-427 was tense. No one slept well. Strange sounds came from the jungle all night. Calls, clicks, and something that sounded like distant drums. By morning, the soldiers were tired, but alert. Eric walked the perimeter with Sam. The defensive line looked good. Soldiers had set up gun positions and motion sensors, but Eric noticed they all kept looking into the jungle. "What's our status?" Eric asked. "All squads report ready," Sam said. "But the comm system is still down. We can't contact Coalition Command." Eric nodded. The ship's communication array had been damaged beyond repair during the landing. They were on their own. "Captain," called a voice. Eric turned to see Private Jack Howard running toward them. Jack was young but sharp. He had been on watch during the night. "Sir, you need to see this," Jack said out of breath. Eric and Sam followed Jack to the edge of the camp. Jack pointed to a spot where they had cleared some plants the day before. "This area was completely bare last night," Jack explained. Now it was covered in small blue-green plants. They had grown at least 6 inches overnight. Some had small pods that seemed to pulse. "That's impossible," Sam whispered. Lisa arrived with her science team. She scanned the plants with her devices. "The growth rate is incredible," she said. "And look at this." She pointed to one of the pods. It was slowly opening like a flower. Inside was a sticky substance that smelled sweet. "Don't touch anything," Eric ordered. Too late. One of the science team, curious about the substance, had reached out. As his finger touched the pod, it snapped, shut around his finger. He screamed in pain. 2 soldiers pulled him back, but the pod held tight. When they finally tore it free, the man's finger was badly burned. The skin had melted away. "Get him to medical," Lisa shouted. "Burn all these plants," Eric ordered. "Now." By midday, they had cleared a wider area around the ship. The medical team reported that the injured scientist would recover, but his finger was lost. Eric called a meeting with his officers. They gathered in the ship's command center, faces grim. "What are we dealing with, Lisa?" Eric asked. Lisa looked troubled. "These aren't just plants, Captain. They respond to movement, to touch. They're more like animals." "So the planet has dangerous plants," Sam said. "What else?" "The air," Lisa continued. "It contains spores we can't identify. They're not harmful in small amounts, but prolonged exposure might cause problems. Everyone should wear breathing masks when outside." "What about those movement readings we detected from orbit?" Eric asked. "Still detecting them," Lisa confirmed. "Large life forms, moving in groups. About 5 miles from our position. Moving slowly this way." Eric nodded. "We need more information. Sam, organized 3 scout teams. I want to know what's out there." The scout teams left an hour later. Each had 5 soldiers, well-armed, and carrying emergency beacons. Eric watched them disappear into the jungle. Hours passed. The first team reported in using short-range radios. They had found a river with strange glowing fish. The second team reported tall rock formations that seemed to vibrate slightly. The third team went silent. Eric was about to send a search party when the quiet afternoon was split by screaming. 2 soldiers burst from the jungle, running full speed toward the camp. Behind them, something massive moved through the trees. "Open the gate!" Eric shouted. The soldiers at the perimeter pulled back the makeshift gate. The 2 scouts ran through, gasping for breath. "Close it, close it," one of them screamed. The gate slammed shut just as a huge shape hit it hard. The entire fence shook. Soldiers raised their weapons. Through gaps in the fence, Eric saw it. A creature the size of a small tank. 6 legs, armored skin, and what looked like dozens of eyes on a flat head. It slammed against the fence again, then made a strange clicking sound and retreated into the jungle. The surviving scouts were from the third team. 3 of their teammates were dead. The creature had attacked without warning, moving faster than something so big should be able to move. "It was hunting us," one scout said, shaking. "It herded us away from camp, picked us off one by one." That night, Eric doubled the guard. Lisa set up equipment to monitor the jungle. The soldiers were quiet, nervous. 3 dead already, and they hadn't even begun their mining mission. Late in the night, Private Jack Howard approached Eric. "Sir, I've been timing the light cycles. Day and night here are only 14 hours total. 7 hours of light, 7 of dark." Eric hadn't noticed, but Jack was right. The days were passing quickly on this planet. "There's something else," Jack added. "The plants grow differently at night, faster, and they move." Eric looked sharply at him. "Move how?" "Like they're reaching for things. For us." Just then, Lisa's voice came over the radio. "Captain, you need to see this." Eric found Lisa at her monitoring station. She pointed to her screen. "The life form, readings. They've doubled in the last hour, and they're surrounding us now." Eric looked at the screen. Dozens of large heat signatures formed a circle around the camp. They were just sitting there, waiting. "Wake everyone up," Eric ordered. "Full alert." Within minutes, all soldiers were at their positions. The jungle was eerily quiet now. No animal sounds, no wind. Then they heard it. A low humming sound, coming from all directions. It grew louder, vibrating through the ground, through their bodies. "What is that?" Sam asked, her voice tight. Before Eric could answer, the plants inside the perimeter began to glow. A soft blue light pulsed from flowers that hadn't been there hours before. "Don't touch them," Eric shouted into his radio, but the warning came too late for some. The flowers released clouds of glowing spores. Soldiers who breathed them in began to cough, then scream in pain. "Masks on," Eric ordered, pulling his own mask over his face. "Get the affected to medical." The humming grew louder. The large creatures in the jungle began to move, not toward the camp but in a circle around it, like they were performing some kind of ritual. Lisa rushed to Eric, her face pale behind her mask. "Captain, I've analyzed the spores. They're attacking the nervous system. And there's something else. All the life forms here, the plants, the creatures, they have the same base DNA." "What does that mean?" Eric asked. "It means they're all connected, parts of the same organism. The planet isn't just hostile, Captain. It's fighting us. Like an immune system fights a disease." Eric looked at the jungle with new understanding. They weren't facing random dangers. The entire planet was coordinating against them. "We need to establish a more defensible position," Eric decided. "The ship is too vulnerable here." Sam pointed to her map. "There's higher ground, 2 miles east. Rock formations, less vegetation." Eric nodded. "We move at first light. Tell everyone to pack essential supplies only." As the strange, short night of TD-427 ended and the red sun rose again, Eric watched his soldiers prepare to move. They had been on this planet less than 2 days, and already they had lost 5 people, the 3 scouts and 2 more to the spore attack. "This isn't just a mining mission anymore," he told Sam quietly. "It's survival." Sam nodded grimly. "And we still don't know what else is waiting for us out there." Eric looked at the jungle, feeling eyes watching him from every shadow. "No," he agreed. "We don't." The large meeting room fell silent as Admiral Gregory Pearson entered. His face was stern as he walked to the front. The 20 officers seated at the long table watched him closely. Captain Eric Miller sat up straight, feeling the tension in the air. "Planet TD-427 has what we need to win this war," said Admiral Pearson. He tapped a button, and a blue-green planet appeared on the screen behind him. "Our scans show rich deposits of quantum ore. With it, we can build weapons the Nexus Confederation has never seen." Eric looked at the planet image. It seemed peaceful enough. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds, like Earth but with 2 small moons. "Captain Miller," the Admiral said suddenly, "your 82nd Battalion will lead this mission." Eric tried not to show his surprise. "Yes, sir. How many troops?" 1,000. Our best soldiers." The Admiral's voice was firm. "You leave in 3 days." After the meeting, Eric walked with Lieutenant Samantha Whitmore down the station's long corridor. Sam had been his second in command for 5 years. They had survived 3 tough campaigns together. "What do you think?" Eric asked her. Sam frowned. Something feels off. Why send so many troops to an empty planet? If it's just mining, a small team would do. Eric nodded. He had thought the same thing but didn't say it during the meeting. The next day, Eric met with Science Officer Lisa Bennett. She was studying data on her screen when he entered her lab. "Captain," she greeted him without looking up. "I was just reviewing the TD-427 scans." "And?" Eric asked. Lisa pointed to strange patterns on her screen. "These readings don't make sense. The electromagnetic field fluctuates in ways I've never seen. And there's something else." She hesitated. "The biological readings keep changing, like the planet is shifting." "Is it dangerous?" Eric asked. "I can't say for sure, but I've requested more time to study it." Eric wasn't surprised when Lisa told him later that her request had been denied. High Command wanted them on TD-427 as soon as possible. The USS Valiant was massive. It could carry all 1,000 troops, plus their equipment and vehicles. The loading took 2 full days. Eric watched as the last supply crates were secured in the cargo hold. "All set, Captain," said Sergeant Pete Daniels, checking items off his list. "Weapons, food, medical supplies, everything." "Good," Eric said. "We need to be ready for anything." That night, Eric couldn't sleep. He walked to the ship's observation deck and found Sam already there looking out at the stars. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. She shook her head. "I looked up the records for TD-427. The first probe we sent never sent back data. The second one sent strange readings before going silent." Eric frowned. "That wasn't in the briefing." "No, it wasn't," Sam said quietly. The next morning, the Valiant was ready for departure. Admiral Pearson came to see them off. He stood before the assembled officers on the launch deck. "The Coalition is counting on you," he told them. "Whatever. The cost, TD-427 must be secured." Those words stayed with Eric as the Valiant left the space station and entered the jump gate. The ship shuddered slightly as it was pulled into faster-than-light travel. In his quarters, Eric reviewed the mission again. Land on TD-427. Set up a base. Secure the mining sites. Simple enough. So why did he feel so uneasy? The Valiant exited jump space 3 days later. TD-427 loomed ahead, looking just like in the briefing image. Eric ordered scan teams to check the planet's surface for landing sites. "Captain, you should see this," called the sensor officer. Eric moved to his station and looked at the readings. "That can't be right," Eric said. "Run it again." The officer did, but the results were the same. The planet's atmosphere was creating strange interference patterns. The ground scans showed movement, lots of movement. Eric called Lisa to the bridge. She studied the readings with concern. "Captain, these biosigns," she started. "They're much stronger than our initial data showed. And they're organized." "Meaning?" Eric asked. "Meaning there's complex life down there. Possibly intelligent life." Eric immediately called Admiral Pearson. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, calm and unsurprised. "We suspected there might be native life forms," Pearson said. "With all due respect, sir, this is more than just native life forms," Eric replied. "We need more information before landing." "Your orders stand, Captain. Secure that planet." The connection ended. Eric looked at his officers. Their faces showed the same concern he felt. "Prepare for landing," he ordered. "Full combat readiness." The Valiant began its descent. At first, everything seemed normal. Then the ship entered the atmosphere. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge. Red lights flashed. "Multiple system failures," shouted the pilot. "Controls not responding." The ship shuddered violently. Eric grabbed his chair to stay upright. "What's happening?" he demanded. "The electromagnetic field," Lisa said, checking her instruments. "It's affecting our systems." Outside the viewports, storm clouds swirled around the ship. Lightning flashed, striking the hull repeatedly. "Find us a landing spot," Eric ordered. "Emergency protocols," the pilot fought with the controls. The navigator called out coordinates for a large clearing in what looked like a dense jungle. "Best option, sir. 15 degrees north." "Take us down," Eric commanded. The Valiant descended roughly, systems failing one by one. Emergency power kept. The engines running, but barely. With a massive jolt, the ship hit the ground and skidded forward, tearing through trees and vegetation. When it finally stopped, silence fell on the bridge. Eric checked the damage reports flowing in. The ship was grounded. Many systems were damaged beyond quick repair. "Status report," he called out. Amazingly, there were no casualties during the landing, though several dozen injuries were reported. Eric looked out the viewport at the alien jungle. Thick trees with purple-tinged leaves surrounded them. Strange calls echoed from the distance. "Atmosphere check?" he asked. "Breathable," Lisa confirmed. "But there are unknown compounds. Nothing immediately dangerous, but we should use filters until we know more." Eric nodded and opened the ship-wide comm. "All troops prepare for deployment. We are on TD-4227, full combat gear. Squad leaders report to the main hold in 10 minutes. He turned to Sam. "I want a perimeter established 300 meters from the ship. Set up defensive positions." "Yes, sir," she replied. Eric looked again at the alien forest. Something moved between the trees, something large. Then it was gone. "Sir," Lisa said, quietly beside him. "I don't think we're alone here." Eric's hand moved to his sidearm. "No," he agreed. "I don't think we are." As the sun began to set, casting strange red light through the purple leaves, Eric watched his soldiers setting up the perimeter. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. TD-427 had seemed so peaceful from orbit. Now he wasn't so sure. The alien structure became their new base. For 2 weeks, they lived inside its protective field. Outside, the planet raged. Strange storms circled constantly. New creatures gathered in the jungle, watching, waiting. Eric stood in what they now called the control room, studying a map. Thanks to Lisa's work with the alien technology, they had managed to get a clearer picture of their surroundings. The map showed 5 red dots. Their separated groups. 3 dots were no longer moving. "Any contact with groups 3, 4, or 5? Eric asked Paul, who was working at a makeshift communication station. Paul shook his head. "Nothing for 3 days." "I think they're gone, sir." Eric nodded grimly. Of the 5 groups that had split up, only his group and Kate Daniels' team were still reporting in. The others had gone silent one by one. "What about Group 2? Eric asked. "Sergeant Daniels reports they're pinned down in a cave system 8 miles north," Paul said. "Heavy losses, only 38 left. From the original 1,000 troops, fewer than 200 remained, and those numbers dropped every day." Lisa entered the control room looking excited for the first time in weeks. "Captain, I've made a breakthrough." Eric and Sam followed her to the lab area where she'd been studying the alien data. Several screens displayed complex images that looked like brain scans. "This is a map of the planet's neural network," Lisa explained. "See these bright spots? They're like nerve clusters or brain centers. The planet uses them to coordinate its defenses." Eric studied the image. "And that helps us how?" "Look here." Lisa pointed to a spot about 20 miles from their position. A bright mass of light pulsed on the screen. "This is the nearest cluster to us. It's what's controlling the attacks in this region." "So if we take it out?" Sam asked. Lisa nodded. "The planet's defenses in this area would be disorganized, at least temporarily. We might have a chance to reach the ship." The ship. Their original landing craft. It was damaged but not destroyed. If they could reach it and make repairs, there might be a way off this planet. "How do we take out a neural cluster?" Eric asked. "With these." Lisa held up a small device. "I've modified some of our explosives using the alien technology. They'll generate a pulse that should disrupt the cluster's function." Eric considered the plan. It was risky. 20 miles through hostile territory. But staying put wasn't an option either. The planet was gathering its forces. Soon the alien structure's protection wouldn't be enough. "We'll need a diversion," Eric decided. "Something to draw attention away from our main force." The plan took shape quickly. Kate's group would create a diversion from their position in the north. Meanwhile, Eric would lead a small strike team directly to the neural cluster. The rest of their forces would head toward the ship. ready to begin repairs once the planet's defenses were weakened. They moved out at dawn. Eric's strike team consisted of himself, Sam, Lisa, and 5 of their best soldiers. They carried the special explosives and moved fast through the jungle. The diversion worked at first. Most of the tanks and runners moved north toward Kate's position. Eric's team advanced quickly, avoiding smaller threats. Around noon, they reached a valley filled with strange pulsing plants. The ground itself seemed to throb beneath their feet. "We're close," Lisa whispered, checking her scanner. "The neural cluster is just ahead." They moved carefully through the valley. The air felt thick, hard to breathe even through their masks. The plants turned to follow their movement, like thousands of eyes watching them. Then they saw it. In the center of the valley stood a massive structure, like a tree but not a tree. It rose 50 feet high, covered in pulsing veins that glowed with blue-green light. At its base, a pool of thick liquid bubbled and churned. "That's it," Lisa said. "The neural cluster." Eric signaled the team to spread out and place the explosives around the base of the structure. They moved quickly, aware that time was running out. "Captain," one of the soldiers called suddenly. "Movement to the west." Eric looked up to see 3 tanks approaching fast. Behind them came dozens of runners. "Hurry," Eric ordered. "Get those charges set." The team worked frantically while Eric, Sam, and 2 soldiers provided covering fire. The tanks charged, moving faster than they had ever seen before. "Get back," Eric shouted as the last charge was placed. "Everyone fall back to the ridge." They ran, the creatures close behind. Lisa activated the detonator as they reached the ridge. The explosives went off with a strange, silent pulse that they felt rather than heard. A wave of energy spread outward from the neural cluster. The effect was immediate and shocking. The pursuing creatures stopped, confused. Some began to attack each other. Others wandered aimlessly. The neural cluster itself changed color, from blue-green to a sickly yellow. The veins stopped pulsing and the structure began to wilt. "It worked," Lisa exclaimed. "The network is disrupted." They didn't wait to celebrate. Using the confusion, they ran, heading south toward the ship. They had to move fast before the planet recovered. They made good progress for several hours. The jungle seemed less aggressive. Even the weather cleared, but as they approached the halfway point to the ship, Eric's radio crackled to life. "Captain Miller," came Kate's voice, weak and filled with static. "Do you copy?" "I copy, Sergeant," Eric replied. "What's your status?" "Bad, sir, very bad. The diversion worked too well, they hit us with everything. Only 8 of us left now." Eric closed his eyes briefly. "More losses." "Can you move?" "Negative," Kate replied. "We're surrounded, but we'll hold as long as we can. Did you reach the target?" "Affirmative. The neural cluster is down. We're heading to the ship." There was a pause. "Good luck, sir. Give them hell for us." The line went dead. Eric tried to call back, but there was no response. Another group lost. They continued south, moving faster now. As night approached, they made camp in a small clearing. The short darkness of TD 427 would give them a few hours to rest before continuing. As they sat around a small fire, Paul approached. "Eric." "Sir, I've been monitoring coalition frequencies. There's something you should hear." He played a recorded transmission. It was Admiral Pearson's voice. "Status of mining operation. Have resources been secured? Repeat status of quantum ore extraction." "They don't even ask about survivors," Sam said bitterly. "There's more," Paul said. "I found this in the ship's secure data files." He showed them a document on his tablet. It was labeled TD 427 Prior Missions. Eric read it with growing anger. There had been previous missions to this planet. 7 of them from different outposts. All had ended in disaster. All the data had been classified. "They knew," Eric said, his voice hard. "They knew exactly what this planet was, and they sent us anyway." "Why?" one of the soldiers asked. "Why sacrifice so many people?" Lisa looked up from examining the document. "Because each mission lasted longer than the one before. Each one got a little further. They're learning from our deaths, using the data to plan the next attempt." A cold silence fell over the group. They were test subjects, expendable. Morning came too soon. They broke camp and continued toward the ship. The planet's defenses were still disorganized, but signs of recovery were appearing. Plants began to move again. Small creatures returned to the jungle. By midday, they encountered resistance. A group of runners attacked from a ravine. They fought them off, but lost 2 soldiers. The effect is wearing off, Lisa warned. The planet is rebuilding its network, rerouting through secondary clusters. They pushed harder, covering ground as fast as possible. The ship was now just 5 miles away. Then the ground began to shake. Trees fell around them. A massive crack opened in the earth ahead. Run, Eric shouted. 3 weeks passed on TD 427. 3 weeks of hell. Eric sat on a rock at the edge of their mountain camp, looking down at the jungle below. They had made it to the higher ground Sam had found on the map. The rocky area had less vegetation, making it easier to defend. But the cost had been high. The trek to the mountains had been a nightmare. The jungle seemed to fight them every step of the way. Plants that cut like razors blocked their path. Insects with painful stings swarmed them. And the large predators, the soldiers now called them tanks, attacked twice, killing 17 men and women. Now 3 weeks into the mission, they had lost over 400 people. 400 of Earth's best soldiers, dead on this cursed planet. Sam walked up and sat beside him. Her face was thinner now, with dark circles under her eyes. Like everyone, she barely slept. Status report, Eric said, not looking at her. Food. Supplies at 60%, Sam said. Ammunition at 48%. Medical supply. She paused. We're running low on pain medication. Eric nodded. Too many wounded. Some would die soon without proper care. The sickness? He asked. 27 new cases today. The sickness had started in the 2nd week. Lisa had determined it was caused by the spores in the air. Their breathing masks helped, but weren't perfect. The sickness started with a fever, then progressed to coughing blood, then hallucinations. 5 people had died from it already. Any word from Paul? Eric asked. Paul Rivers was their communications officer. He had been working non-stop trying to boost a signal through the planet's interference. Nothing yet, Sam replied. But he's still trying. Eric stood up. I'll check on Lisa. Lisa had set up her lab in a small cave. She barely left it now, working day and night to understand the planet and find a way to fight back. Any progress? Eric asked as he entered. Lisa looked up from her microscope. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. Some, she said. I've been studying tissue samples from the tanks we killed. And their cells communicate with each other in a way I've never seen. Similar to how our nerve cells work, but more connected. And look at this. She showed him a sample of plant tissue next to the tank tissue. The cellular structures were almost identical. As I suspected, they're all part of the same organism, she said. Different expressions of the same DNA. How is that possible? Eric asked. I don't know, Lisa admitted. But there's more. The attacks are getting more coordinated. The planet is learning our tactics, adapting to them. Eric had noticed this too. Each attack was more sophisticated than the last. The tanks now worked in groups using strategies that seemed almost human. A soldier ran into the lab. Captain, we need you at the north perimeter. Eric followed him quickly. Dark clouds had gathered above the camp, though it had been clear minutes ago. Lightning flashed, striking the ground near their defensive line. A storm? Eric asked. Not like any storm I've seen, Sam said, joining him. Look how it's focused right on our position. She was right. The storm clouds hovered directly above the camp, nowhere else. As they watched, lightning struck their ammunition cache, causing a small explosion. Take cover, Eric shouted. The storm raged for an hour. Lightning struck with impossible precision, hitting their weapon positions, communication equipment, and supply stores. When it finally passed, they had lost more supplies and 3 more soldiers. The planet did this, Lisa said, examining the burn patterns. It generated a targeted electrical storm. That night, as the short darkness fell, the attacks began. They came from all sides. Tanks charged the perimeter while smaller, faster creatures, the soldiers called them runners, slipped through gaps in their defenses. Eric fired his rifle at a runner leaping toward him. The creature fell, but two more took its place. All around him, soldiers fought desperately. "Fall back to the inner perimeter," he ordered. The night seemed endless. Wave after wave of creatures attacked. By morning, 38 more soldiers were dead, and twice that number wounded. Eric called his remaining officers together. Their faces showed the same exhaustion and fear he felt. "We can't stay here," he told them. "The planet knows exactly where we are and is concentrating its forces against us." "Where can we go?" asked Sergeant Kate Daniels. "It will just follow us." "We need to split up," Eric decided. "Multiple smaller groups will be harder to target than one large camp." Some officers disagreed, but in the end they saw the logic. They divided the remaining forces, now just over 500 people, into 5 groups of about 100 each. Each group would head in a different direction, making it harder for the planet to focus its attacks. Eric would lead the main group, which included Lisa and her research team. Their goal was to find a way off the planet, or at least send a distress signal. As they prepared to leave, Paul Rivers rushed up to Eric. "Captain, I got a signal through." Eric's heart jumped. "To Coalition Command?" Paul nodded, his face flushed with excitement. "Just for a few seconds. I sent our coordinates and an SOS. "Did they respond?" Sam asked. Paul's face fell. "No, the connection cut off. Still, it was the first good news in weeks. Maybe help would come." The 5 groups left at dawn, heading in different directions. Eric's group moved west, toward a range of taller mountains. They carried what supplies they could and left the rest. For 2 days, they hiked through rough terrain. The attacks continued, but were less coordinated now, as if the planet was confused by their new strategy. On the 3rd day, they found something strange. A perfect circle of bare ground, about 50 feet across, in the middle of the jungle. No plants grew there. No creatures approached it. "What is it?" Eric asked Lisa. She scanned the area. "There's some kind of energy field. It's blocking the planet's neural network." "A safe zone?" Sam suggested. They decided to make camp there. For the first time in weeks, they slept without attacks. In the morning, Lisa investigated further. "There's something under the ground," she reported. "Metal, artificial." They began to dig. 3 feet down, they hit something solid. It was a hatch, made of a dark metal they didn't recognize. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. "This isn't human," Lisa whispered. "Someone else was here before us." Using cutting tools, they managed to open the hatch. Below was a dark shaft with a ladder leading down. Eric led a small team into the shaft. At the bottom, they found a corridor that led to a large room filled with alien technology. Much of it was damaged, but some screens still glowed with power. Lisa examined the technology with wonder. "This is far beyond our tech level," she said. "These beings, whoever they were, they knew about the planet's nature." In one corner, they found what appeared to be logs or records. Lisa worked to translate them using her devices. Hours later, her face was pale as she reported to Eric. "Captain, we weren't the first to come here. According to these records, at least 7 other species attempted to colonize or mine this planet." "What happened to them?" Eric asked, though he already knew the answer. "The same thing that's happening to us," Lisa said. "The planet killed them. All of them." That night, as most of the group slept in the safety of the alien structure, Eric, Sam, and Lisa discussed what they had learned. "The records indicate that the planet is a single organism," Lisa explained. "The largest living entity ever discovered. Everything here, the plants, the animals, the weather, it's all connected to a central intelligence." "Can we communicate with it?" Sam asked. "Make it understand we're not a threat?" Lisa shook her head. "It sees any intrusion as an infection, to be eliminated, and it's learning from each encounter, getting better at killing." "There's something else you should know," Lisa added, her voice lower. "According to these records, the Coalition has known about this planet for years. They've sent probes, studied it. They knew exactly what we were walking into. Eric felt cold anger rise within him. They sent us here to die? Not exactly, Lisa said. I think they sent us here hoping that enough of us would survive to secure the resources they want. They're treating us as acceptable losses. The realization hit Eric hard. 1,000 soldiers sacrificed for quantum ore. Just then, Paul burst into the room. Captain, I got another signal through, and this time there was a response. Eric's heart raced. What did they say? Paul's excitement faded. They acknowledged our distress call, said a rescue ship would be dispatched in 3 months. 3 months. Most of them would be dead by then. Did you tell them our situation? Sam asked. Paul nodded. They already knew. Their exact words were, continue with original mission parameters, survival secondary to resource acquisition. Silence fell over the room. They had been abandoned by their own people. What do we do now, Captain? Sam finally asked. Eric looked at his tired officers. We survive, and we find a way off this planet ourselves. But even as he said it, he wondered if any of them would live long enough to see home again. Eric strapped on the last piece of his environment suit and checked his weapon. The plasma cutter they would use to sever the tentacles was heavy, but should do the job. Sam and Carol were similarly equipped. Once we're out there, we'll have minutes. At most, Eric told them. The planet will throw everything it has at us. What about the storm? Sam asked, looking at the viewport where lightning still flashed. We'll have to risk it, Eric replied. Lisa, Paul, keep working on the launch sequence. The moment those tentacles are cut, take off. Don't wait for us. Lisa started to protest, but Eric cut her off. That's an order. The mission is to get back home and tell everyone what happened here. The airlock was on the lower deck. As they approached it, the ship rocked again. More alarms sounded. Hull integrity at 72%. Paul's voice came over their helmet comms. You need to hurry. Eric checked his team one last time. Ready? They nodded. Let's do this. He opened the inner airlock door. They stepped inside and the door closed behind them. The outer door opened slowly, revealing the nightmare outside. The bare ground around the ship was now covered in strange, pulsing growths. The tentacles holding the ship were even bigger up close, thick as tree trunks and covered in a tough, bark-like hide. I'll take the port side, Eric said. Sam, starboard. Carol, the forward struts. Stay in visual contact. They split up, moving carefully along the hull of the ship. Eric reached the first tentacle and activated his plasma cutter. The blue hot beam sliced into the tentacle's flesh. A high-pitched wail filled the air, so loud it penetrated their helmets. The tentacle thrashed, but held firm. Eric cut deeper. Thick, yellow fluid oozed from the wound. Finally, with a shuddering groan, the tentacle severed and fell away. One down, several to go. He moved to the next one, aware that time was running out. In his peripheral vision, he saw Sam successfully, cutting through a tentacle on her side. Carol was making progress at the front of the ship. Then the planet's counterattack began. The ground erupted as more tentacles shot upward, thinner but faster than the ones holding the ship. They whipped through the air, seeking the humans. Watch out! Eric shouted as one lashed toward Sam. She dodged, barely avoiding its strike. When lightning intensified, now striking near them rather than the ship. The planet was targeting them directly. Eric cut through his second tentacle and moved toward the third. A quick glance showed that Sam had severed 2 of hers as well. Carol had cut one and was working on another. We're almost there, Eric encouraged. Them. Just a few more. A tentacle caught Carol by the leg, lifting her into the air. She screamed, firing her weapon at it frantically. Eric rushed to help, but another tentacle blocked his path. He cut through it and pushed forward. Carol managed to sever the tentacle holding her and fell to the ground. She landed hard but got up quickly, limping but still mobile. They continued cutting, racing against time. The ship began to groan and shift as more of its restraints were released. On the comm, Lisa reported that the engines were ready for an emergency launch. Final tentacle on my side, Sam called out. Her plasma cutter flared, and the last tentacle on the starboard side fell away. Eric finished his final cut just as Carol severed the last forward tentacle. The ship was free. "Get back inside," Eric ordered. They turned and ran for the airlock. The planet's response was immediate and terrifying. The ground around the ship began to collapse, forming a pit that grew, wider by the second. The tentacles, though severed, still reached for them blindly. Eric reached the airlock first and held it open. Carol limped through next. Sam was just a few steps behind when a lightning bolt struck directly in front of her. The force threw her back, away from the ship. "Sam!" Eric shouted. He rushed out to help her. Sam lay stunned, her helmet cracked. Eric grabbed her arm and pulled her up. Together they staggered toward the airlock as the pit grew wider around the ship. "We're losing ground." Lisa's voice came through the comm. "The ship is starting to sink." They reached the airlock just as the last bit of solid ground disappeared. Eric pushed Sam inside and jumped in after her, closing the outer door. The inner door opened and they collapsed onto the deck. "We're in," Eric reported. "Go! Take off now!" The ship's engines roared to life. The entire vessel shuddered as it fought against the planet's gravity. For a terrible moment, Eric thought they wouldn't make it. Then the Valiant began to rise, slowly at first, then faster. Eric and Carol carried the semi-conscious Sam to the bridge. Through the viewports they watched as the planet fell away beneath them. The massive storm still raged below, lightning reaching up toward them like grasping fingers. "Approaching upper atmosphere," Lisa reported, her hands dancing over the controls. "Engines holding at 68%, it's going to be close." The ship shook violently as it climbed. Warning lights flashed across every console. The hull creaked under the strain. "Come on," Eric whispered to the ship. "Just a little more." With a final surge, the Valiant broke free of the atmosphere. The shaking subsided. The blue-green curve of TD 427 filled the viewports, beautiful and deadly. "We made it," Paul said, his voice filled with disbelief. "We're in orbit." There was no time to celebrate. The ship was badly damaged. Life support was failing in multiple sections. They had escaped the planet, but they weren't safe yet. "Status." "Report," Eric ordered, helping Sam into a seat. Her breathing was labored, her face pale behind her cracked helmet. "Main engines offline," Lisa reported. "Thrusters at minimal power. Life support stable in the bridge and adjoining sections only. Communications." She paused, checking the systems. "Basic functionality restored." "Send a distress signal," Eric told Paul. "All frequencies." Paul worked quickly. "Signal away. Now we wait and hope someone hears us." The hours stretched into days. They rationed their supplies carefully. Sam's condition worsened. Her exposure to the planet's atmosphere through the cracked helmet had infected her with the same sickness that had killed so many on the surface. Carol's leg wound from the tentacle, began to show similar symptoms. By the 4th day in orbit, she was bedridden beside Sam. On the 6th day, their luck changed. A response to their distress signal came through. A coalition patrol ship was in a nearby system and would reach them in 2 days. "We're going to make it," Eric told his dying friends. "Just hold on a little longer." But by the time the coalition ship defender arrived, both Carol and Paul had succumbed to their infections. Sam was barely conscious, and Lisa was showing the first symptoms. The defender docked with the Valiant. Medical teams in hazard suits rushed aboard, placing the survivors in quarantine immediately. "Captain Miller?" A medical officer approached Eric as they were transferred to the defender's medical bay. "I'm Dr. Martinez. We need to debrief you as soon as possible." Eric stared at him through exhausted eyes. "My people need treatment first." "Of course," Dr. Martinez assured him. "But Admiral Pearson is very eager to hear about your mission." Admiral Pearson, the man who had sent them to that hell. Eric felt a cold fury rise within him. In the medical bay, the doctors worked frantically to save Sam and Lisa. Eric watched from his own quarantine chamber, refusing to rest until he knew their fate. Hours later, Dr. Martinez returned. His face told Eric everything before he spoke. "I'm sorry, Captain. Lieutenant Bennett didn't make it. Her infection was too advanced." He paused. Lieutenant Whitmore is stable for now. We've put her in an induced coma to help fight the infection. Lisa was gone. Eric closed his eyes, adding her name to the long list of those lost to TD-427. 3 days later, the Defender reached Coalition Space Station Alpha. Eric was immediately summoned to a debriefing with Admiral Pearson. He went reluctantly, leaving Sam in the care of the station's medical team. The Admiral sat behind a large desk, looking much as he had the day he assigned the mission. Like nothing had happened. Like 1,000 lives hadn't been lost. "Captain Miller," Pearson greeted him. "I'm glad to see you made it back. Your mission report will be invaluable." Eric stood stiffly at attention. "You knew what that planet was," he said, his voice flat. Pearson's expression didn't change. "We had indications that TD-427 might be hostile, yes." "Not hostile," Eric corrected. "Alive, sentient. You knew because you'd sent others before us." A brief flicker of surprise crossed Pearson's face. "You found the records." 7 previous missions, Eric continued. "All failures, all covered up. You sent us there to die." "I sent you there to complete a mission," Pearson corrected. "The AR Quantum Ore on TD-427 could win this war." "At what cost?" Eric demanded. 1,000 soldiers, 2,000. How many lives is it worth?" "As many as necessary," Pearson replied coldly. "This is war, Captain. Sacrifices must be made." Eric stared at the Admiral, seeing him clearly for the first time. "You're planning another mission, aren't you?" Pearson didn't deny it. "With the data from your experience, the next team will be better prepared. 2,000 troops, maybe 3. Enough to overwhelm the planet's defenses." "It won't work," Eric told him. "The planet learns, adapts. Each time you attack, it gets stronger." "Perhaps," Pearson conceded. "But we must have that ore." Eric thought of his people, dying one by one on that hellish world. "I won't let you send more people to their deaths,"